I'll be the last one left when the lights go out. I'm down to one last breath, but I can't stop now. We all fall down sometimes, yeah, but that's just life. So cross my heart and hope to die. Baby, I was born to fight the fear when I feel like dying. I'm trying to fly high, but I'm not a pilot, can't deny it. There's some days I feel idiotic, just a product of a system where you're lucky just to make a dollar. That ain't gonna stop me cause my grind's contagious. I'll do what it takes to turn passion to paychecks. And if I go down, I'ma do it on my terms. And every single problem brings a lesson that I learned. The darkest nights, when things seem so broken, it's hard to shine, but I still try. I'll be the last one left when the lights go out. I'm down to one last breath, but I can't stop now. We all fall down sometimes, yeah, but that's just life. So cross my heart and hope to die. Baby, I was born to fight. That's right.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Graps TV and the Sicko Show for your live WWE Smackdown, AEW Dynamite, and AEW Collision review. I'm your host, the Matty Man. I hope everybody's doing great. I'd like to welcome everybody here. I see we've already got a viewer in here, so that's pretty awesome. So let's get this thing kicking. Oh, what a day, what a day, what a day. My son was in town, and we had some pretty good time together, and very thankful for that. Very thankful. God's blessed me with some good children, and not a whole lot of people can say that, and I'm glad I can say that. I'm glad my kids are turning out pretty good. You can't beat family. And I did run into some interesting fun this week, and of course, you probably heard me go off on a rant with Bully Ray a couple of times, and I'm going to stop doing that. I'm just going to stop doing that right here, burying the hatchet, not really wanting to spend all my day answering idiots all day and his little minions and so on and so forth. So, whatever you say from here on out, gospel. Doesn't matter to me. Hadn't mattered to me in a minute, and I was actually sitting there laughing when I was responding to some of these tweets, especially the never was rub, so to speak, et cetera, et cetera. I thought that was funny. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley have been going at it on the web today. I say web, I know I'm telling my age here, but they've been going back and forth on Twitter. It's been pretty entertaining. I'm going to tell you something right now. We were having a discussion last night on Covalent TV, and once again, they brought out a very fantastic point. I'm not going to piggyback too heavy on it because, number one, they came up with it. It's their job to develop it, and it's their idea. And I'm just going to use a couple of minutes of my platform to chime in as well because if you are not watching Covalent TV in addition to this right here, you are really missing out on a treat. And by a treat, I mean that, they bring it. And if I can be 10% as good as they are by the end of this year, with the content and the reviews and the dissections and so on and so forth, I will consider that an accomplishment. I'll consider it an accomplishment for several reasons because number one, the both of them are incredibly intelligent, incredibly articulate, incredibly charismatic, and that's what got me started in this in the first place. By the way, if you're looking around here, you see I got a totally new look, and I've got some ways to switch around so that we're not just looking at a whole bunch of flashy stuff and things of that nature, because while that's a great idea, it's not a bad idea. It kind of detracts from what we're talking about here. And my SmackDown and my Rampage reviews are not going to be that long because they've been reviewed to hell and back already. There's probably like 55 posts on each one of them. You've got it, you've read it, you've heard it, you've seen it. I'm just going to gloss over them a little bit because I am at this point in time completely fed up with WWE. And by fed up, I'm just like, okay, you've got incredibly talented performers that are capable of running at about 10 times the speed they're running at. Most of them are capable of working the mic probably 50 times better than some of that shit you're feeding them to regurgitate to the crowd. And collectively, they have busted their asses. Most of them have come through the pandemic. They've come through some really bad times, 2018 and 2019, and basically 2020 while we're at it. I mean, 2020 really started sucking. And, to have to perform your craft in front of a bunch of TV screens in the Thunderdome is an accomplishment. Now, you see, the way that I start my reviews, when I'm getting ready to just dissect the living shit out of something, I'm going to hit you with the good points first. That way, nobody can accuse me of glad-handing, bully. And there are a lot of positives you can take out of every week's performance, with the exception of wrestling. Now, I don't have a count for the amount of minutes that were wrestled this past week, but I'm guessing it wasn't very far off from the previous week of a whopping 29 minutes in 2 hours. And I think they had 39 minutes in 3 hours. So in essence, in a 5-hour show, in a 5-hour block between Raw and SmackDown, we got about an hour and 5 minutes of wrestling. That means we got approximately 3 hours and 55 minutes of commercials, ads, promos, most of which sucked, because you can tell a lot of them are forced and everything else. And quite frankly, with all due respect, those WWE performers deserve better than what they have to feed us. Now, for some of you who are just into soap operas and you really don't care about wrestling, WWE is your lane. Because there's very little wrestling, a whole lot of soap opera, a whole lot of drama. And when the drama spills out on the twits, and it doesn't spill out too much on Facebook and so on and so forth, because, if they tried to spill this drama out on Facebook, every one of them be in Facebook jail, 30 days apiece, no reach, no nothing. So thank you, Elon Musk, for freedom of speech. There's a shout out. It's the only one I'm ever going to give it. But SmackDown this week was, as they said, as we discussed it last night, SmackDown this week was a class clinic in everything that WWE can do and nobody else can do. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it. If you really want to get the whole gist of it, go over to Covalent TV. That's at Covalent TV. And look up last night's podcast and just watch the first, 35 minutes of it, 40 minutes. Now, I think they didn't get into it real deep until about an hour. But I dare you to break the argument. I dare you to try. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they are the Andrew Wilkow of wrestling broadcasting. Not the most popular takes on a lot of things, and that includes AEW as well. But I find it mentally and physically impossible to break a lot of the comments that they put out and a lot of the base they've got for their show. That's why I consume it, because it makes me just a little bit smarter about the business every single time. I learn things, and hopefully the things that I learn, I can bring into this podcast here with their blessing and permission to have these conversations with people who won't tune in, but will tune into this because we saw the Smackdown part. We're like, ooh, he's going to talk about WWE. Yes, I am going to talk about the matches at SmackDown last night. I'm going to cover the Dynamite matches last night as well. But I mean, I'm looking at this thing right here. We've got Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade. We got Blair Davenport versus Naomi. That one I'm definitely going to talk about deeply. Kevin Owens and Grayson Waller and the Street Profits versus DIY. Okay? Those were your 4 matches in 2 hours. And the combined total of wrestling involved in them is probably still at 30 minutes. When I'm looking at it and I'm adding it up in my head here, I don't have an exact figure. I just have exact figures for last week. Because somebody actually sits down and counts up all the minutes and so on and so forth. And that's where we all get it. Somebody has to sit down and do it. And it's quite painful. And I'm not going to sit there clock and pocket watching, to count the minutes of it. I'm too busy watching the action. I'm trying to catch up with the promos. It's not real hard. Now, the one thing I will give WWE credit in, and I do believe that this is probably more responsible for the viewership than it is the actual promos or the wrestling or any of that bullshit. The fact of the matter is you can actually sit out WWE for an entire month. And because they recap everything from weeks and weeks and weeks back all the way up to the present, you can actually watch one of their premium live events and you haven't really missed anything. They're going to make sure you're up to date on everything, all the storylines, the whole 9 yards. So WWE is more like the casual viewer than the casual viewer thinks it is. Now, that's something that AEW could never get away with. New Japan Pro Wrestling could never get away with it, or any of that. No other promotion on the planet can get away with this crap but them. And I'm tired of being nice about it. Now, I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to have a conniption. I'm not going to give myself an aneurysm over a podcast. Just not going to do it. Shout out to the 4 people that are watching right now. Thank you very much. Please like, comment, and share. I always appreciate it. And if you feel the need, and if you're in a platform like if you're on Twitter, because that's the chats I'm pulling in tonight to see if I get any chats from Twitter. If you're on Twitter, hit me up, man. Seriously. I'm not going to shame you if it's a comment or anything like that. I'm not built like that. I like interaction. Interaction make these shows go a lot longer than me just sitting here railing off the results and all that good stuff. So if you are going to, then by all means, jump in the chat, say something. Leave a comment, leave me something. I'll respond to them, and they'll be kind comments. I'm not going to flame you if you say something I don't agree with. We'll talk about it. I like the interaction. It helps me help you. So by all means, drop some comments. I'm not really doing this for the money in the first place. I'm doing this to train myself in other areas, and I'm enjoying doing it. It's a great outlet. Like I said, my son was up here, and we had a great time. I think we capped it off with some cheeseburgers, and he hit the road to head back to the mountains so he can go work up at the cabins where he works. And, this is my time now. So, I'm proud of him. He's come through a lot. So, you get to that part of it in the whole 9 yards, everything's pretty good. And, I really don't mind having discussions, and I talk to him, and I bounce things off of him to make sure that I'm at least fresh, and at least I'm on the cutting edge to stay in line with that demographic. I don't have a problem with that at all. But there are some people out there that just absolutely drive you nuts when you're sitting there on the web, and I probably have one here, so just give me about 2 seconds to pull that together here. I should have had it already pulled up, but I didn't. Okay. This one today comes from somebody who apparently did not watch SmackDown at all. Okay? This is live in all caps, LIV, little n, the number 4, Live Dom. This is from Twitter, and this is our red light for the night. And it's real short, sweet, and to the point. You know, at least they didn't have like 8 numbers behind them to confirm they were a drone. And this is one I can't even get behind because I think Roman's segment at SmackDown was absolutely perfect. To an extent, we'll get to that near the end and so on and so forth of the SmackDown part of this. Roman looking weak before Rhea and Damian. They live among us, they walk among us, they breathe the same air, and they can't wait to tell you their shitty ass takes. Now, while I was not particularly thrilled with SmackDown, even I have to concede that the Roman segments on SmackDown are getting better and better and better. It's the only part of the show that's getting better. The rest of it is just like feed right now. If Roman Reigns is in the building, let me break this one down for you. If Roman Reigns is actually in the building, number one, they're going to pack the building out. Now, I know they said they came up a couple of hundred tickets short of their sellout, and as of Showtime, they were a couple of hundred tickets short, so they probably papered the rest of it to get their sellout, and that's fine. They're in Orlando, so on and so forth. But for someone to take such a bad faith drone take, I mean, at least it didn't give me a migraine, but, you know, let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Do you think that Roman Reigns, your tribal chief, he's, you know, I enjoy WWE enough to say that I can get into the storyline. It's just been running for so long. I'm used to long storylines because all the wrestling I watched growing up had 7, 8, 9 month. Some of them had a couple of years. The Dusty Rhodes Flair segment between Starcades took 2 years. So I'm used to incredibly long segments. This one is just kind of getting old while they're trying to figure out how to revamp it, put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it as my little, you know, from my days of listening to hip-hop music. They're in the process right now, flipping this thing around and creating new content for it. And they're developing it a little bit. So, because the Bloodline is its only storyline right now, with the exception they have to care about the Judgment Day and Rhea and Damian, the Terra Twins, as they've been called. They have to care about that. That happened organically. They don't have a choice. They have to acknowledge it. They have to care about it. And they have to run with it. Because, you know, God forbid we have 5, 6, 7 storylines going at one time for 5 or 6 or 7 different fan bases. God forbid we make everybody happy. And I have a really strong belief that is 95% of the haters for AEW's problem. See, Tony Khan actually tries to make his fans happy. Sometimes it backfires. There's a lot of us that don't like Orange Cassidy. There's a lot of us that do. There's a lot of us that don't like Chris Jericho. There's a lot of us that do. There's a lot of us that don't like MJF. That'd be me. A lot of people do. A lot of people are digging MJF's storyline right now. I think it's total trash. And you know what? If that were my first introduction to AEW's product, I'd turn TV off, pull my cable, and say, fuck it. I'm not watching it. That's how strongly I feel about MJF. But a lot of people like MJF enough that he gets paid stupid well to do what he's doing. So his fan base is bigger than my thought process. Now, it doesn't matter whether they're right, wrong, good, bad, indifferent. The fact of the matter is he's drawing. And Tony Khan tries his best to make everybody happy. He's got a problem. If I counted tonight, we've got 6 storylines going. We had 6 matches. We got 6 storylines. I'm going to get to that hologram thing because I was looking on the dirt sheets to kind of get an idea of where their temperature was. And honestly, guys, I read it simply just to check the heat. It's a heat check. Because they're not going to say anything good about AEW at all. And before I get deep into the Smackdown part of it, the other news is AEW has announced that All In is going to be in Texas, in the Rangers ballpark. Now, I forgot the name. You get 2 or 3 concussions in your life, you forget things. And I really should write them down, but I don't want people to see me like actually looking at a piece of paper every time like I can't remember 5 minutes. I'll remember it during the show. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that was the one I couldn't remember. It'll come to me. But within 10 minutes, now this was the press conference, and they've reiterated it. AEW is coming to Texas for 2025 All In. They're going right back to Wembley Stadium in 2026. It was not even 10 minutes. The dirt sheets were like, oh, AEW is folding in England. They're done in England. They're not coming back. Even though it's widely announced, clearly announced, put out in an announcement, I really, honest to God, believe that the segment of WWE fans who devote their livelihood to hating AEW are just generally pissed off. Because it seems to me like Hunter can only book 1 storyline per show at a time. Now, there's a lot of storylines that happen organically, and the fans can get into it, but that's not intentional. That didn't come from creative. It didn't. Say what you want, it did not. It absolutely did not. Oh, and shout out to Saraya, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Today's her birthday. She just turned 21. Because you ain't no way in hell you're ever going to get me to announce anybody's age, especially a female. You also don't get names out of me. I know a lot of names, but you ain't getting them out of me. But happy birthday, Saraya. 21 never looked better. Happy birthday. And many more. But the red light that I just gave you has been typical of what I've been seeing all day. Now, between Liv and Rhea spouting back and forth and popping off stuff and things of that nature, which was quite hilarious. It really was. If you haven't seen it, run over there. It's really funny. Because it is. I mean, one thing they dominate on is social media. I'm not even going to lie. So, with that said, it was a fun day today. But then you see that comment where it was like Roman was looking weak as opposed to the Terror Twins. Now you guys are fighting amongst yourselves. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's totally fucking entertaining. I love it. I sat there and laughed most of the day. Not even going to lie. I mean, it was absolutely hilarious. Watching y'all just go back and forth. And you know what? Let these guys get their stuff out there. And another thing, too. By the way. For all of you knuckle-dragging meat eaters. Now, I say meat eaters as in, like, actual food. But you knuckle-dragging meat eaters out there. And this goes for all the talent. And it goes twice over for the female talent. These women get out there and they bust their ass. All of them. All divisions. New Japan. CMLL. AAA. AEW. Especially WWE because they work probably I think they still work 280, 300 days out of the year. no time off, away from their families and everything else. Can we just please stop it with the hoe, the bitch, the slut? Can we just stop that? These people are on here for your entertainment. They're also here to provide you with information. They are not here for your opinion. They are so fucking far above your opinion and my opinion. And I will tell you right now, if your name is Sean Ross Treesap, they're above his opinion. The only opinion that matters to them is the one that comes straight out of Paul Levesque's mouth. Okay? And some of them really don't want to be doing this social media thing because basically they're doing it on their own time and their own dime. They're not getting paid by the hour to do this. They're here for your entertainment. They're here for your information. That includes the men. That includes the women. That includes the transgenders. That includes the homosexuals. People who are proud to be gay. That includes all of that. Every single bit of it. Just because you happen to know a lifestyle, just because you happen to know something, because someone has bothered to share it with you, it is not cannon fodder for your stupid ass little bang on the ceiling for dinner from your mama, basement living, knuckle dragging, meat eating, jackass motherfucking selves to bring out. Now that shit right there, I'm just not tolerating anymore. So if you come across my profile and you're blocked, you're probably guilty. Now, yeah, I know what people are going to say. Would you say to bully? That's me and bully talking straight up to each other. Okay? That's a little bit different. I'm not doing a drive-by on Liv's page going, you know, your ass looks big. I'm not doing a drive-by on Rhea's page talking about, ooh, what's the matter? Are you just too deep? That's offensive, by the way. That was a line that was written for her to throw out there. That was a concept. Creative gives them a concept and they construct it out there in the ring. That was a concept given to her by Creative, not given to you to determine the depth of her vagina. Cut that shit out. If you guys knew how weird you looked, if you knew how cringe you looked, and you want to know something else for all you 17, 18-year-old kids? You want to know who else reads your social media? Colleges. Jobs. They read your social media. They track you by IP. They have entire teams in their buildings dedicated to that. And if half of you dumb motherfuckers knew that, you'd cut it out. Respectfully. No, shut up, old man. What do you know? I know enough to watch people cry because they didn't get a job over a Twitter tweet. They didn't get a job over a Facebook post. They lost their job over a Facebook post. So all of you aspiring young people out there that are looking at me like I've lost my fucking mind, okay. Yeah, I've lost my fucking mind. And when that school rejects you, it's probably because you were commenting on Liv's ass. You were commenting on the depth of Rhea Ripley's vagina. Reputable schools don't want that shit because it's called a pattern. Reputable businesses don't want that shit. I work for me. I can say whatever the hell I want to at my own expense. There's a lot of us out here that do this thing, Covalent included. We work for ourselves. I have my own private jobs. And they pay quite fucking well. But I work for me. I pick who I'm going to work with. Nobody picks my work for me. So when you see me on here, or if you see me on the Twits just really, really, really killing somebody down, it's because I can. I have nobody to answer to but the man in the mirror. So just for your own good, because I know your parents ain't looking over your shoulder and shit like that. But just for your own good, cut it out. My feed looks like a who's who of. Y'all come up with some compromising statements that I could have never thought of when I was your age. Probably could have, but I didn't have that conglomeration to roll with. You're your own worst enemy right now. And you know what? You can tell me to shut the fuck up. I'll shut the fuck up and you can cry about the shit you didn't get. I thought I had the qualifications. You probably do. But you talked yourself out of it. You tweeted yourself out of it. Here's one. You gooned your way out of it. Respectfully. I'm not angry. You don't hear me yelling. Just take this as some old fatherly wisdom that I just gave to my son, too. He doesn't do stupid shit like that. I mean, he might say something stupid every once in a while, but who doesn't? That's forgivable. Pattern is not forgivable. And most of your major institutions, if you have a conversation with them and they're really fucking honest with you, the reason you didn't get that spot is because of something you said online. So let's do our best to try to clean that shit up, okay? Seriously, my timeline would appreciate it. Everybody's timeline would appreciate it. I would actually be able to research stuff for my shows. I can't even get on certain areas to research stuff for my shows. By the way, we got a flower shop coming up for Natalia Neidhart, September. October, because that's my birthday month. No, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just saying I'm giving myself something special. I'm going to do a flower shop on Will Ospreay because I would like to get to know more about the wrestler. And in November, I'm going to be live at WrestleCade, cheap plug, myself and the Covalent TV. We're going to be live at WrestleCade. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be interviewing wrestlers. Both of us are. I'm going to have some good interview segments. I might even get lucky and get a Sting interview. Maybe. I might get lucky and get one of those. I might get lucky and get a few interviews with some stars that I really appreciate that I follow that follow me back. And you never know. We might see old Harley Cameron there. Not scheduled, but that might be a surprise. But the reason I'm able to do all of that is because I'm very respectful to them. Now, I don't back down. What I'm getting ready to drop here, especially about Smackdown, not going to be pretty. I'm going to have some good things to say. I'm going to have some bad things to say. So if you don't want to hear anything bad about double E, then you might want to just go ahead and tune out. I will not pander to you. I will not pander the truth for your acceptance. The fact of the matter is, WWE is succeeding in spite of itself. They've done a lot of good things. This bloodline thing, this is the second hottest feud I've seen in my entire life. And I'm talking about over 45 years of wrestling. Over 45 years of wrestling. This is second only, in my mind, to the Four Horsemen versus Dusty Rhodes. Because that feud felt real. The bloodline thing stopped feeling real to me about 2 years ago. And when that happens, you lost me. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not necessarily playing the role. And that does not mean that I cannot fairly and accurately report on it. I'm just saying, for me personally, you lost me a couple of years ago. Now, this Jacob Fatu thing, in the back of my mind, I know they're going to nerf him. I just don't know when. But I'm going to enjoy this Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns segment of this. Whatever inning they're in, I'm going to enjoy this because this was one of my dream matches since Jacob Fatu was going to sign to WWE anyway. I wanted to see him go against Roman Reigns. And we got a little taste of that. We got a little taste of that coming up at the end of this segment on SmackDown. So let's jump into it here real quick. SmackDown continued to be a ratings powerhouse. The television loves them. They love themselves. They went over last week's numbers. They did a 2.269 million view. Good on them. Good on them. Enjoyed it. And I actually enjoyed the wrestling part of this just fine. I'm escaping all the stupid shit segments, like the one that opened up. The whole celebration thing just didn't look right, and I understand where they're going with it. Don't get me wrong. I understand where they're going with the Tiffy thing. I know eventually it goes down to her cashing in. But it's almost like, okay, Nia, here's the Queen of the Ring. Okay, Nia, here's your championship. Okay, Nia, we're still going to nerf you. Because the Bloodline's on the same show as you, and we can't have you up here without having them up here. So this whole pink and white thing, it really didn't do anything for me. Thankfully, Mia Yim shows up here in the middle of the segment, gives Nia Jax a little boot, gets rid of Pretty Zesty, and that kills that segment dead as hell. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm just going to cover the match parts of it and a couple of things that I thought were good. There were a couple of things I thought were bad. That's one of them. And I'm going to get into what I really thought was bad here a little bit. And it's not that I'm shitting on WWE. It is the fact that as a fan and not a podcaster, I've been watching wrestling for 45 years. And WWE breaks a lot of cardinal rules. There is a cardinal rule in wrestling, whether you are the heel or the face. If you have any kind of stock in the company, if the company has any kind of stock for you, you don't lose at home. And I'm not going to let that one go. But anyway, we kicked off with Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade, and we got to see a Timu Andrade match, a Timu and AEW Andrade match. And all I got to say is, Bubba, you signed on the dotted line. But we basically got tipped off ahead of time between the ladies and Carmelo. We got tipped off ahead of time that Melo was going to win the match anyway. WWE, I would love to play poker with WWE. $1 million a hand. They're that easy to read. So we knew Melo was going over. The match was good from a standpoint of WWE clockwork, the way they clocked the moves, the way they clocked the matches, everything else. It was very well timed. And while I realized that Melo was having some issues with his timing, and that's to be expected, they don't stick him in the ring but once every couple of weeks. You know, it's not like he's got regular work. I know he's got house shows. I know that. But there's a big difference when the lights come on. House shows are presumably things no one's ever going to see on television, with a very rare exception. So I know he's been to house shows. I got that. I know he's working on his plans. I got all that. But it's a whole lot different. You are a whole lot more comfortable in a house show than you are for a live TV show, because if you do botch something, the only people that know are the people in the building. And 9 times out of 10, WWE fans can't see a botch a mile away. So they're kind of like drunk people at the rock concert. And you forgot the lyrics to the song. You just keep moving it as long as the music's going. You know, you can pretty much talk about stubbing your toe, and most drunk rock fans aren't going to catch on to it. They're just going to go, yeah, rock and roll. A lot of the fans are like that as well. So house shows don't mean a damn thing. There's no pressure when you're on a house show. All you got to do is wow the fans in that building. And generally it's between 8 to 12,000. As opposed to 2.29 million with the lights on in the bright lights. But so I'm willing to give Melo a pass on some of that. He botched a couple of times. Wasn't that big of a bad of a botch. It didn't really kill the match for me. I just really haven't watched Andrade work an AEW match and then have him try to bring that in there. Shout out to Melo for even keeping up. Because he already showed me something. that I didn't see. Now, I'm still not a big Melo fan, but he showed me something that I didn't think he had in the fact that he could keep up with Andrade. And he did manage to keep up. Now, his clock was off a couple of times. So, I mean, but still, it was a pretty decent match. Melo picked up the win. Cheesy little ass roll up. And, you know, that worked. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. But the match, it looks like we're going to get a best of 7 here. That's what it's starting to feel like. And so to piggyback, and I am going to piggyback here, these are things that WWE can do that nobody else can do. Because if WWE does it, it's like, oh, there's something there. You remember back in 1923. I don't want to do all that shit. There was nothing there for the show. It was doing okay. Don't get me wrong. But there's no story there. There's just not there. And of course, I'm noticing tonight, Hologram puts on a hell of a match. And everybody, and every dirt sheet goes, even though there's not a storyline. Dude's only had 5 fucking matches. Who's he going to feud with? Who knows him? Besides the fans, they love him to death. But I went through there, you know, after the Hologram match was over with, looking on Twitter, looking on everything else. Because I keep my ear to the ground. They were quick, too. Who is this guy? Where's the story? Meanwhile, I don't know, Melo's pants, maybe he got a wedgie from somebody that looked like Andrade when he was in high school. Maybe that's the storyline. Okay? Not shitting on the match, just pointing things out. After that, we had Blair Davenport versus Naomi. And this is one I'm going to talk about for a few minutes. This is one where WWE broke the cardinal rule. Naomi was in Orlando. Probably 10% of the building bought a ticket just to see her wrestle, and they bought a ticket to see her win. Because about 100% of you still don't even know who the fuck Blair Davenport is. We're in Orlando. Naomi's putting on a damn good match, and I got to say, Blair, you were slipping in this match. You botched in ways that I never saw you botch overseas. I never saw you botch in AEW. You know, it just didn't happen. But Naomi was there. The fans were there. It was her hometown. Blair Davenport picks up the win, and I'm going to opine on something here. Give you a little piece of backstory on this thing. Blair Davenport is Will Ospreay's ex-girlfriend. For those of you who didn't know, now it's out there. They dated. So it's my thought, not only were they punishing Naomi, but it's my thought that they gave Blair Davenport the rub simply to look at Will Ospreay and go, fuck you. Either way, Naomi deserved better. She's a hell of a wrestler. She puts in the work. She puts in the time. Obviously puts in the practice because she ain't rusty. Ain't seen her in a couple of weeks either. Probably longer than that. If I really, really wanted to focus on that part of the story, I would have actually sat down and researched the last time she was on television. I ain't even looked. But it's been a minute. And Blair Davenport walking up to a seasoned veteran like that, it should have been a long match because Blair Davenport got skills. I was the one calling her call up. I got laughed out of an NXT podcast. You're like, I wonder who else they're going to call up. I'm like, Blair Davenport. Oh, she ain't that good. Blah, 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 blah. I literally got kicked out of the stream. Live show, just like this. So I type in there Blair Davenport. Because I know she's a natural call-up. I've seen her wrestle. I know her moveset. I know her past. I know what she can do. And I know how fast she can go. Because I actually bother to pay attention to her matches. And I'm not paying attention to her ass. I actually like the wrestling. I like women's wrestling better than I do men's wrestling, not because of the looks or any of that. I like it because women think things through completely different. And if I want to get a woman's take on a move set, if I want to get a woman's take on an angle, they're usually pretty damn spot on. They're intentional. They hit their marks 9 times out of 10. Way better than men. I love women's wrestling. So I knew who Blair Davenport was before she got to NXT. So I made that call. I'm like, yeah, they're going to call her up. Got laughed at, literally got ejected from the podcast. No hurt feelings. Don't really care. But anyway, Blair Davenport picks up the win over Naomi. Naomi, sweetheart, if you ever needed a reason to walk right the fuck back out of WWE, they just basically told you. And, you know, I think it's hilarious, too, because it's one of those scenarios where when you think about it for what it is and not what it should be, they're probably just shitting right back at Mercedes Moné, who actually picked up the win on Wednesday. Like, oh, your buddy won. Well, I know we're in Orlando, but you're just going to have to lose. Sorry, girl. And boom, off she goes. Bullshit. Bullshit win. That's the one that I'm definitely going to call bullshit on. I like Blair Davenport. I followed her career a lot longer than most WWE fans have. Like I said, she's Will Ospreay's ex-girlfriend. That's how closely I followed her career. She should have not picked that win up in Orlando. She could have picked it up anywhere else in the world except Orlando. To me, that was like 2 middle fingers to AEW. It was 1 middle finger to AEW, 1 middle finger to Naomi. When it comes time to sign that contract, you need to run. I know your husband's there. I know your husband's in a crazy storyline. I know your husband's in something that's going to feed the family, but run. 3 things that WWE has shown me that they don't care about you. They care about one thing at a time, and you ain't it. Nothing wrong with the bloodline. Hey, guys, I'm not shitting on the bloodline. There's a fan perspective. There's an analytic perspective. And then there's just fucking reality. 9 people in the show tonight, man. Appreciate you. That's 9 more than I thought I'd have. Thank you very much, guys. I really, really appreciate you being here. Drop a comment. I mean, if you're on Twitter, go ahead and hit me up. Drop a comment. Tell me what's on your mind. So, you guys are all stars tonight. I'm just showing up here running my mouth. I'm enjoying it, don't get me wrong, but you guys are the stars. I'm just here facilitating the show. We had Kevin Owens versus Grayson Waller, Australian Miz for some reason. No storyline for that one either. Just, my panties were in a wad, let's go fight. Once again, that's something WWE apparently can get away with and nobody else can. But, you know, I digress a little bit. The Street Profits versus DIY, number 1 contender spot. We all know Street Profits finally got their flowers. You know what? I understand how much love Triple H has for his black and gold NXT guys. But the Street Profits have been putting in the work. They've been putting in the time. They've been putting in the effort for 3 years. Now, apparently in 2021, late 2020, 2021, they were good enough to carry your tag team division. And right now with the bloodline reforming and so on and so forth, man, I'm going to tell you right now, putting the tag belts on that version of the bloodline shits all over the Usos, by the way. Oh, but you don't understand. No, they weren't. Okay? You don't understand New Japan Pro Wrestling, period, end of discussion. I don't even get into this conversation with Tama Tongo and Tongaloa. I'm not even having that conversation. Y'all don't understand New Japan Pro Wrestling. They were not dominant. They were not anything. They were basically mid-carders. Now, they carried tag titles and so on and so forth because they were the only real cohesive tag team at the time when the titles were out there. They were the only ones that could carry it. They're still mid-carders. I don't want to hear that shit. Doesn't mean anything to me. The Usos, they are not. Jimmy Uso, drunk, blindfolded, high on coke, knows how to hit a low blow. Jay Uso, drunk, blind, high on coke. They hit that corner rope segment all day, every day. They can phone it in better than these guys are putting it in the ring. It's bullshit to me. Don't want to hear about it. Anyway, the Street Profits pick up the win over DIY. And, that was a pretty decent match. That was. It showcased a lot of highlights from the Street Profits. It showcased a lot of DIY. And it was the correct team winning. Between those two, the Street Profits, hand over fist, every day, all day, every day, 10 times better than DIY. Sorry, Johnny Gargano. I know that you're Mr. Wrestling and all this, or Johnny Wrestling, or whatever it is you want to call yourself. I don't care if you call yourself Johnny Nutsack. I don't care. They're the better tag team all day, every day, twice on Sunday, and 5 times on Saturday. The right team won. DIY won. Anyway, I mean, not DIY. Then we go to the Bloodline segment again. Solo Sikoa Slaw, and one half of the Gorillas of Destiny. I'm not even caring right now about that part. Calls Roman Reigns out. Roman Reigns shows out. Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity here to understand the gravity of what went into making that segment. Just announced your uncle's died, but you still got to go work. Roman Reigns, you are officially my angle of the week, just simply for showing up. Which I'll cover that in a fire story probably tomorrow, maybe Monday, I don't know. But when it got to Roman Reigns, because I wanted to see the look in his face when he came out, because I understand from a very close perspective. Folks, I'm a Mason. And I say that proudly. I've had bullets thrown at me for that, literally. Check the news, fact check me, last year. A lot of us were getting randomly assassinated for no good reason at all. It was a news story last year. I'm proud to be a Mason. I was leading my lodge. My dad died, like I was talking about a couple of shows ago. My dad died, this is how I can fact check WWE. My dad dies on a Thursday. The Wyatt family make their debut that following Monday. But that following Monday was also a lodge meeting. I was the leader of the lodge. I couldn't phone that in. So I show up, I say nothing to anybody. I hadn't even made an announcement about my father passing, none of that. I show up for the lodge. We go through our business. We get everything done. We have a little assembly at the end of lodge, at the end of our stated communication, where we have a couple of things that we talk about and so on and so forth. And I happen to bring up, guys, if you would please pray for me. My dad just died. And everybody looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I said, because my mom looked me square in the face and said, this is where I was supposed to be. She's correct. So when I saw Roman Reigns walking down the aisle, I was watching his face. I wasn't watching his movements. That man was stone cold in control. And if you understood, see, I can relate to it. Now, I'm not a big famous wrestler or any of that stuff like that, but I actually was important in my community. It's an important thing. What we do is important. People look up to it. We help children. We do all kinds of stuff. And I knew that I couldn't phone that meeting in. So I sucked up all of the energy that went along with that, went in there, did my job, quite better than I'd done it in months, to be honest with you, because I was that focused. And then I let everybody know at the end of the meeting, once all the business was conducted, So when I saw Roman Reigns coming down that aisle, my honest thought was, I don't know how he's going to do this. Because, I mean, they were family. And that's your family. So watching him come down there was absolutely beautiful. Chef's kiss all the way across the board. This I will brag heavily on because I have sort of a personal stake to it. So I understood what it takes and what it took to get him from the top of that ramp to the bottom of that ramp in that ring doing the segment and getting back out. Roman Reigns comes in, Ulafala, etc., backstabbing. He gets his hands on it. We get a pop. Backstab again. Solo gets the Ulafala back. We close the show out. Roman Reigns, sir. Mr. Anoa'i. That is the best performance in your wrestling career for me. I am in no way, shape, or form going to speak negative or ill about that segment at all. Do I think it accomplished anything? Yeah, it made Jacob Fatu look like a fucking beast. Shout out to Jacob Fatu for his part in that thing. But I'm not going to criticize that angle at all. I'm not going to criticize that part of it. Whether I liked it or didn't like it, you're never going to know. Shout out to Jacob Fatu. Shout out to Roman Reigns. Shout out to Solo Sikoslaw. I know I make fun of his name all the time. Kid showed up. I mean, he accomplished the part that needed to be accomplished. And I kind of felt like between those three, now I don't care about the Gorillas of Destiny. They really don't have a dog in this fight. If you knew how many dogs they don't have in this fight, well, some of you probably do know, you just don't care. So I'm not concerned with them. These three gentlemen in this moment, with these events, understanding that culture and how seriously they take life and death, I have nothing but good things to say about this segment. Whether I'm happy with the storyline or not is irrelevant. All three of these men, the three men that I looked at to see how they were going to put this segment together, made this segment come together good. And I really felt a lot of Roman's emotions in this thing. Because trust me, sir, I've been there. Now, not at your level now. But I mean, if I was going to make a relatable story to it, not at your level, but I've been there. Shout out to all three of you. Serious condolences. Rest in peace. Thank you for putting on a damn fine show. A damn fine segment considering. See, I already made up my mind when I saw that segment. I wasn't even going to, I wasn't going to give it a positive or a negative. I was just going to give it what it deserved. And that segment right there saved the show. Otherwise, this would have been a complete toilet for me. Not from the wrestling standpoint. The athletes, the entertainers, they showed up. They did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. They got in, they got out. Now, I know I criticize matches and so on and so forth, and I get that part of it. I'm not criticizing the wrestlers. Not a damn bit. Even the ones I don't like. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu. The three main event players for that segment showed up, showed out, and showed us why they belong where they belong. I can't be overly critical of any of it because of the circumstances. They could have gone out there and mumbled, and I would give this a great review. The fact that they're out there in that particular segment, at that particular situation, with this kind of thing going on, they could have got out there and mumbled. They could have played jacks for all I care. They could have got out there and played poker. They could have done Ring Around the Rosie, and it would have been a great segment for me because the three of those gentlemen Given the culture, given everything else, there's no reason in the world why they should have even been there. Segment should have been canceled. Everybody should have gone home for that. I mean, we shut it down for Chris Benoit. And the family ties in that particular story aren't exactly that cohesive. These folks live, breathe, and die as Samoans. They live it, they breathe it, they grow up in it, they're educated in it. It is not just a family, it is a culture, it is a way of life. Samoa is a way of life. So shout out to those three gentlemen. I wouldn't have given a damn if y'all just walked in there, waved at everybody, said thanks for coming out, and just walked the hell back out, did the segment next week or the week thereafter. Y'all got time. Funerals are immediate. Storylines we can let go. So I'm not going to crap on that at all. Overall view for SmackDown, that segment saved it for me. I'm going to give them a 6 just because those three guys showed up in the ring, did their job under the direst of circumstances. And a lot of people showed up tonight. Naomi showed up under a dire circumstance. And to be honest with you, the Street Profits showed up under a dire circumstance. So I'm going to give it a 6. Oh. And rest in peace. In all seriousness, rest in peace. Thank you for the memories, sir. Both of the Wild Samoans, thank you for the memories. I watched a lot of Wild Samoan matches when I was growing up. That was a big thing. So when I say thank you for your service, I really mean it because they showed up, they showed out. They were instant in season and out of season. That's a religious term. They never, ever disappointed. They never phoned it in. Neither one of them. Wild Samoans, thank you for your service. Rest in peace. And like everybody else has said, I hope you guys are having the biggest barbecue up there. You know, I really do. I really appreciate everything you've done. And thank you for giving us some fantastic entertainment. And thank you for providing us with additional entertainers. You have served your cause well. So with that said, that would be the end of the WWE SmackDown review. So we're going to switch over to Rampage. Look out. You're not seeing things. It's really changing over to AEW Rampage. And I'm going to go through this match results. I'm going to give a couple little talks through here. We had some good things with Rampage too. Started off with the Conglomeration versus the Butcher and the Outrunners. That was a calamity in professional wrestling, a little bit of vaudeville, a little bit of side stuff. This match right here was for the sickos. I'm not going to lie, this match was totally for the sickos. And I loved it too, but this match was really for the sickos. Conglomeration wins because, you know, we can't have Orange Cassidy show up and lose. When you see Orange Cassidy, you can just about pin that one in as a win and move on with your day. Because Orange Cassidy is one of Tony's favorites. And I'm going to get to that when we get into Collision because that becomes very important down the road. Give me just 1 second here. My water bottle fell down. I got to grab it. Literally, give me just 1 second to grab it. I'll be right back. Just hang tight. Thank you for your patience on that. I really appreciate that a lot. Yeah, we opened up with Trios match, Conglomeration featuring Ring of Honor World Champion Mark Briscoe, freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro Ishii. Oh, Lord, one of these days remind me to play that drone accountability from Covalent TV. It was just, oh my God. It was hilarious at the same time. So it's an inside joke. when I give you that drone accountability, you'll understand the inside joke part of it. It was absolutely hilarious. There was a tweet out and I forget who the name of it was on there that Mr. Starks read on the air, and I shit you not, this was the actual tweet. Between MXM and Ishii, there are just too many sexy men in AEW, and they were being serious. They were not being the least bit facetious at all. So we kind of half slap happily refer to Ishii as the sex god. But yeah, I mean, they did the usual. I mean, the Outrunners did their usual vaudeville act. It's kind of vaudeville-ish now. It used to be a serious act back in the day when they first broke into business. The way they did things used to be the way things were done on a lot of the independents. So when you see them doing silly stuff, they're really a throwback to the old school, and I'm talking about 1980s independent runs and things like that. They really are a throwback to that. So when you see a lot of what they do in the ring, you're sitting there rolling your eyes. Some of the old dudes, like myself, we understand what we're looking at, and it's entertaining to us. Shout out. I got 10 viewers still here. I'm very happy with that. Thank you very much. You guys are the real stars of this show, not me. Not me. I'm just sitting here reporting the news. You guys are the stars of this show. Like, gang, comment, gang, share, gang. I'm not asking you for money, but please, please, please help me get amplified out there. I had one show I was doing 40 one night, and that really, really made me happy. I felt like I'd accomplished something. So, like, gang, comment, gang, share, gang, get the word out, amplify it, help me out. I can use all the help I can get. If you like this good work, throw my name out there. I appreciate it. But, yeah, the conglomeration picks up the win on that one. It's fairly easy. And then immediately following that, this was the crazy part. Every once in a while, Tony will throw you a curveball. But Nyla Rose comes marching out there, especially after she lost to Saraya last week. And she's marching out there ready for her match. She's not going to let anybody rest, anything like that. She jumps straight on Erica Lee, who was the valet for the Outrunners and the Butcher. She was their valet, so she was already out there. Here comes Nyla Rose out there. That's a 5-second squash match. After that, we get Saraya and Harley Cameron. The British invasion, which Harley Cameron's not British, she's Australian. But okay, so let's just say the overseas invasion is running very well, Tony. It's running very well. I love that invasion. All of the women, spot on point. They lean a little bit into the sexuality part of it, but they don't get cringy and creepy about it. So I mean, Saraya and Harley Cameron, they're going back and forth about how Saraya's being overlooked for All In, and that's correct. Saraya is being overlooked for All In. That's a fact. And so I mean, but you got to admit, when you watch these two together, I have a copy of it. I'm still trying to figure out if it's okay to show it, whether Tony's going to try to copyright strike me or not. When I get confirmation he won't copyright strike me, I'm going to start sharing segments during the live review, because I do get some of the segments. By hook or by crook, I save them for my own posterity, because some of these segments are just so damn good. She's interrupted by Toni Storm, who, talks about everything, offers her a match for next week. We're going to get her on Dynamite in England, Cardiff, Wales, to be exact. And, she says she accepts, and we're off to it, and that's going to be her ticket to Wembley. Now, do I believe that Saraya is going to beat Toni Storm and take Toni Storm's place and fight Mariah May in England? No, I do not. I don't think that's going to happen. I think her path comes a different way. I don't think that, because Toni is not the type to leave a British star out of an English show. So we know she's getting her spot. We just don't know exactly how it's going to come. But for right now, Toni Storm offers her a match for next week. Immediately, here we go again. things WWE can do, but AEW can't do. Immediately, my feed blows up with, "Where's the story?" Okay, they were in a group together, guys. Toni Storm took the title from her. She did not get an effective rematch. And that was almost a year ago. There's your story. Okay? You got to watch the product because a lot of the stories are told inside the ring, they're not told outside the ring. Now, they are starting to get video packages, and when they are bringing video packages in, every single video package we've gotten from Dynamite on through, everything, every single thing has been on point. It has been short. It has been sweet. Yeah, I didn't even cover that Giovanni thing from Smackdown. That's something else I escaped. So I had no desire to watch them create another jobber. And that's all Giovanni's going to be. Now, he may come out hot. They may try to get a little ROI off of him. But if you think that storyline right there was to introduce this hot new act, you're missing it. That ain't happening. Every single video package that AEW's put out in the last week or two have been to the point, spot on, hand in hand with what is exactly going on. They're not wasting tape here. You got this, guys, y'all got this little device in your hand, and you can tap it one time and know anything you want to know about any of these wrestlers. On top of all that, 9 times out of 10, because a lot of people rage post about them, and because we've got AI on the internet now, and because things trend for whatever reason, you can get a conglomeration, no pun intended, of information to create your story for you to help you out. I realize that's work. And you know what? I'm not even shitting on you for not doing it. There's some things I don't care to look up. Somebody says, "Oh, you should watch this," and I watch it, and I'm like, "Okay, what? Oh, you didn't get it?" No, I didn't get it because I just watched it for the first time. "Oh, you should really go look." Well, I wasn't that interested in it. Nothing really caught my eye. So I get it. Going out on the web may not be the best thing to do all the time, but it's really there, and you can really go look up some of this stuff. That way you're not behind. Had somebody hitting me tonight about the Sammy Guevara win. Well, what about the rumors of, and then I broke down the rumors for. Because I do these podcasts. Now I realize I'm not as fluent or flowing like some people are, because it's going to take me about another week or two to actually get into full stride. I'm working my way in. Bully really helped me out with that. Thanks, Bully. Because you pissed me off enough to actually get myself back. You pissed me off enough to get the real Matty Man back. The one that I buried. Because the real Matty Man, no filter, no punches pulled. If I'm in a mood one night, I can be the most entertaining sumbitch you ever saw. Now, I try to keep it congruent. I try to keep the language down to a minimum. I've already got pop labels on Twitch. I'm already labeled as excessive profanity, which I might say 15, 20 cuss words in an hour and a half. We're at an hour and 13 minutes right now. I've said exactly 11 cuss words, which means I say maybe a cuss word about every 10 minutes. But they've got me labeled as excessive profanity because, you know, that keeps the stream down and it keeps it from amplifying. And I got it. I'm fine with that. The only reason I even turn it on is because it's free for me to turn it on. If I had to pay to do it, I wouldn't do it. I don't understand the culture. I'm not even going to try to understand the culture. Learning your ex culture was enough for me. So, anyway, I digress a little bit. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, we got one hellacious promo from these two ladies, and we're just going to have to agree. And Tony Khan, Tony Khan, Tony Khan, Tony Khan, Tony Khan. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every week, every single time. So you're going to get tired of hearing it, but it's a fact. When you get those, when, not if, when we get those women's tag team titles with that new television deal, these need to be your first tag team champions. Because they will do for you what Triple H thought The Miz and R-Truth could do for that title. They will do that. Don't get me wrong now, before anybody runs out and says I'm shitting all over them, no, I'm not. R-Truth, extremely entertaining. But I understand the vitriol that gets passed around for him as well because of the style of entertaining. Tony Khan, if you put those titles on Saraya and Harley Cameron, they will do for them what Paul Levesque expected out of The Miz and R-Truth. It will happen. Because those two ladies together are lightning in a bottle. I'm going to post that on my page here. I'm going to post the funny parts of that entire segment. And the way Harley Cameron does things, it's like it's second nature. So we just got introduced again tonight because they were trying to throw a little bit of background out there. I knew she could sing. I knew she was a model. Because once again, I do my research. She's also going to be one of my flower shops along with Natalia. I'm doing at least 2 or 3 a month now because I'm actually starting to get into it. Natalia's going to lead off on my flower shop, followed by Harley Cameron. Then the following month, I'm going to do a flower shop on a couple others. I think I covered that earlier anyway. But I'm trying to say right now, these two ladies are lightning in a bottle, and they are the entertainment factor you were hoping to get out of The Miz and R-Truth. You will get it out of these. You should put the tag titles on them immediately. However the storyline permits, whatever you got to do, put the titles on them. It'll be a good start. And then we get into, let's see, who was it again? I've lost my place here. Oh, yeah, Roosh and Kyle Fletcher versus Rhett Titus and KM. That was pretty much a phoned-in quick squash. It did a little bit to advance Roosh's storyline because they're trying to slow roll him in right now. As of this show right now, I've still heard no indication whatsoever that CMLL or AAA are very happy with Roosh working the TV time he's working at AEW. Basically, we're 100% sure he's going to jump complete ship over to AEW, which, by the way, shout out to AEW for signing Tommy Billington. Good call again. I can't praise that one enough, especially after I got the Dax Hardwood backstory on it. If you haven't seen the Dax Hardwood backstory on it, skim through my posts. Most of you guys do that anyway, looking for something to talk shit to me about. Not you guys in the room, thank you here. These are the people that are going to watch the replay and hate on it and downvote it up in YouTube. And they're going to downvote it over on Facebook because, there just isn't a whole lot of traction for AEW. And anybody trying to get traction for AEW immediately gets hit with this kind of shit. It's getting old. It's getting tired. I'm way smarter and way wittier than y'all. You're just not worth my time to respond. There's no money in it. All there is heartache and drama, and I have no desire for that shit. Never have, never will. I'm too old for that shit, literally. So, hey, you know what, Bubbas? Y'all do you, and I'll just smile at you and say thanks for the engagement. Like I did to Bully. If you don't believe me, go look. But yeah, that was a pretty quick squash match right there. That kind of made me feel bad for Rhett Titus. Rhett Titus is a really good wrestler who had to endure that. Now, I will admit I'm not as fully researched on KM yet, but I'm working on it. It's in the middle of the other 500 things I do, plus my real job. So, yeah, that was a pretty quick squash match. And we closed out the night with the main event, Top Flight versus MXM Collection. Once again, this was a classic moment right here. If WWE had done a grab-ass match like this right here, oh, y'all be losing it. The WWE fans would be losing it. Talking about cinema. Okay, that's what they did. They did a grab-ass comedic match where they introduced a little bit of bisexualism and so on and so forth. It was actually pretty tastefully done, And Miss Gray, yeah, she can turn a. I'm not going to say that because I'll get canceled. The fact of the matter is, the way that they worked that match together, it was absolutely gorgeous. I like the play on sexuality because Tony Khan started leaning into that, especially a lot with Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is just, oh, damn. Nyla Rose is just good for that. Nyla Rose is good for business. Overall, Harley Cameron is good for business. Saraya is good for business. Most every AEW star in there is good for business. And if you don't understand the stories, that's what they got DVRs for. If you don't understand the stories for, that's what they've got on demand for. If you see a wrestler you particularly like, and I have done this myself, hit the replays. Go, it takes 5 seconds. There's actually, AEW actually provides you with a section in the website for ongoing feuds, matchups, how many times they matched up, when they matched up. That's how I was able to do my last flower shop on Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa. Because they literally were like on July 4th and July this and August this. And August. They had the dates, the venue, the whole 9 yards. Make it a whole lot easy to go look up. If you've got a particular wrestler that you want to keep up with, they do everything but come in your house and give you a book. It's there. All you got to do is get up and go look at it. And if you didn't know it was there, let me be the first person to tell you. There is no excuse for not knowing what's going on in AEW in 15 minutes or less. They just don't clog the television up with recaps of the recaps of the recap from the last recap. They put more wrestling into it, and now they're actually building storylines in. The wrestling was down a little bit this week. It still went fast. I feel like there was a lot more wrestling this week. Once again, I don't have the full numbers yet. Probably won't have them until Monday. I'll throw them out next Saturday when I do the show. I'm going to be on the road next week. So, I mean, you guys can applaud. There probably won't be that many live streams on there. I am taking my portable with me so I can do some local streaming, things like that. Yeah, I can do some like in the room streaming, or I can go ahead and do some recorded shows, upload them, and so on and so forth, and at least get some content out there. But as far as live shows going on, there's not going to be any. Not till next Saturday. My next live is going to be Saturday. But, I mean, there is no excuse for not knowing. There's no excuse for not knowing what's going on. If you see a wrestler, I'm going to tell you right now, there were a couple of wrestlers that just watching them work is what got me involved with AEW. And then I realized it was one of the fastest hours of wrestling on Rampage. This hour went by just like that. 1 minute it was 10:05. The next minute, Covalent TV was coming on at 11:06. Literally, it was that fast. It's a good way to catch up on some stuff. Now, I will say this, and I have read a lot of legitimate criticism. This is legitimate criticism of that. Rampage used to be a whole lot better and a whole lot more stacked. It really did. I'm not going to disagree. That is a good faith argument. That is a good faith debate question. What's happening to the quality of Rampage? I think you're going to see the quality of Rampage go up because Tony does do long-term storytelling and he does long-term booking. Y'all, I mean, when I say he's leaning into some of your criticisms, the fact that we get a match announcement 15 minutes before the show airs is him leaning in to your criticisms. These matches are booked weeks, if not months, in advance, just like Double E. These things are booked weeks, if not months, in advance. Nobody's sitting back there going, "Hey, Dax, are you in the building? Can you wrestle?" Nobody's sitting there doing that. It's just not happening. But anyway, the close of the match, we got the nice little bisexual angle going on. Miss Gray showed up there in that airline stewardess outfit, and you could just see the washed mass virgins going, "Oh my God, boobies!" But yeah, anyway, shout out to that outfit. The match was really good too, by the way. But yeah, Top Flight picks up the win on that one, and that closes out the show. Rampage, for real. If it had not been for Harley Cameron and Soraya, I would have given this show a 1. They single handedly pulled it up to a 3. They made it entertaining, they made it light, and everything else. And my moment of the night in that show was Soraya's promo. By the way, before it gets entirely too late, because I got 7 minutes left on this day, happy birthday, Soraya. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for all the beautiful matches. I was not part of that magazine that you got, although I got to tell you, you got some hellacious fans. Liv, you're slacking, girl. That's all I got to say. You're slacking on this one. You know you're slacking. I know you're slacking. You know, everybody knows you're slacking. But that's neither here nor there. Happy birthday, Soraya. We got 7 more minutes left of today, and I kind of feel like you're on my time zone. I know you're not watching, but you may catch the replay for all I know. Happy birthday. You deserve it. 21 never looked better. Okay? That closes the night out for Rampage. And that brings us on to your AEW collision review. Don't blink, you'll miss it. Oh my goodness, look at that. I'm going to kick this one off here, and I actually have detailed notes for this. Everybody else has reviewed Smackdown and Rampage into the ground. I was looking to see how long they went because I didn't want to go really long. That first 30 minutes of intro, I'm sorry I did that to y'all, but it really needed to be said because I'm still getting killed by bullies, so it needed to be put out there that, you know, if I really cared what washed virgins banging on the ceiling waiting for grandma to bring them something to eat had to say, I don't. But anyway, if I did, that's where I would be. But yeah, I mean, it was like this show kicked off kind of right, and when I realized that Britt Baker was kicking the show off, once again, Harley Cameron, 10 matches under her belt, by the way. So what you saw out of Harley Cameron is a woman who has worked 10 whole matches. On paper, green as grass. Didn't look like it. Did not look like it. Let's see here. Dr. Britt Baker made her way to the ring, receiving a thunderous welcome from the sold-out AEW Collision. Sold out. They sold out tonight. Oh, but they only got 1,500 seats. I don't care. It's sold out. We watched NXT Heatwave, and that was presented to 793 people. Like, they did not even try to fill 15,000. And you say, oh, that's the B show. No, they're not making it out to be the B show. They are calling it developmental, but they are putting these people through the paces, which I'm glad they're finally doing that, so it gives them a general idea of how they're going to look in front of 10 or 15,000 people. But 793 for a pay-per-view, I wouldn't even want to be in line for that ticket. That ticket right there probably has interest rates behind it. Okay? That's just a fact. 1,500 people sold out. Britt Baker is over. Harley Cameron stepped into the spotlight solo, a surprising twist given to her usual association with Soraya. Fact, you usually don't see one without the other. And back when Tony Storm was part of it, you never saw the three of them apart. They always showed up in packs. As the match unfolded, it became clear that Baker, with her wealth of experience, was steering the ship. And I say that respectfully. Baker was one of these days I'm going to sneeze on camera, and you guys will understand why I rub my nose a lot to make sure I don't sneeze. Um, in all honesty, hang on a minute. I can see something's going on here in the chat. Let me see if I can actually see it. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, it's not popping on Twitter. If you do it on Twitter, that would be better. So whoever's chatting to me, if you did that on Twitter, it would be fine because I could actually see it on the side one. Or, if you want to drop a comment down from where you were chatting from, I'd appreciate it. And I'll load the chat from there so I can actually read your stuff. One of these days, I need to figure out how to make this thing bigger, and I think I'm just about to figure that out. Give me a second here. Yeah, I got it figured out now. So you guys can do what you want to do. Sorry about that. Sorry I couldn't see it. I didn't acknowledge your chat. I apologize for that. I just couldn't see it because the screen was about this friggin' big. Now it's about this friggin' big. So I can actually see and read what you're saying. Thank you for whoever chatted. When I go back to watch the replay, I'll catch it. And when I catch it, I'll put a comment under the show to reply to it. Okay? I appreciate it very much. So if you feel like chatting again, drop it again, and I'll actually be able to see it. My apologies. But yeah, you could definitely tell Britt Baker was steering the ship. You could see her calling the moves and so on and so forth. But I mean, like I said, this is Harley Cameron's first big match. Britt Baker is a big match for Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron proved to be up to the task, but after a hard fought 8 minutes, this match went. They gave her 8 minutes to get into stride. That's how much AEW believes in Harley Cameron, because Britt Baker didn't need the rub. Okay, she didn't need it. At the end of it, at the end of the match, Britt Baker goes over with an actual clean pin. She did not use the submission move that she dropped on Mercedes Moné back on Wednesday. She won it clean. It was to me, I think Harley Cameron carried her weight. Now, it was clear that Britt Baker was calling the show. I get it. It was clear that Britt was calling the show. But Harley actually handled herself quite well. I was impressed. And we need to see more of that. Because Harley's got some skills. And she's developing quite well. At least I think she's developing quite well. Through her ring work. Damn sure cuts promos like you ain't ever seen. And if you ever take a minute, just take 1 minute of your time to Google or to YouTube one of her songs. Every once in a while when I can't sleep, I just turn on the YouTube and listen to her sing, and it puts me to sleep. It's so angelic, I promise. And I'm not marking out. I'm not being like a Spaz fan or anything like that. The fact of the matter is I have trouble sleeping. I always have. And it's almost like a lullaby. Her voice is gorgeous. And then we find out that she's a ventriloquist, too, on top of that. They dropped that little tidbit in there, and that was something I didn't know. Shout out to Tony Schiavone. Now, the one thing I am going to say, my immediate criticism of Collision tonight, 2 things. Number 1, the camera crew was not on par tonight. I'm just going to say that one up front. The camera crew was not on par. And as a result of it, I don't know if you noticed it, but there were several spots during the show where Tony Schiavone seemed to get lost. Those guys actually do look at the monitor because they are far away removed. Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, all the WWE guys, those aren't sitting there just for looks. They really look at the monitors, and of course, in some instances, they have the script, and so they have the plays. They have everything laid out there. So they're looking at the plays and they're looking at this. Part of being a color commentator for wrestling in general is to be able to see what you're doing. So when the camera crew's off, you heard Tony Schiavone stumble over words all night, and Tony's been calling wrestling matches since, holy crap, like 1982, 1983. So he's been doing this for a long time. But he was off most of the night, and I was like, wow, what's going on? And then I started seeing the camera guys goofing up, and I'm like, there's the problem. So, yeah, I mean, for those people who say I don't criticize AEW, that's a criticism right there. It's a legit criticism. Just like earlier for SmackDown, those criticisms are totally legit. Just because you don't like them, that's not my problem. But the fact of the matter is, the camera crew could have probably been better tonight. The cameramen, the production side of it could have probably been better. Tony probably wouldn't have been, skipping over his words so much. But yeah, I mean, he was stumbling through it, and I felt bad for him because it was actually a really good Collision show. Now, was it to the par and the level of Dynamite? No. Dynamite, Tony Khan just like, all right, then I went and did this. And I was feeling it's like those ones you see on there, the thirst girls, and that's what I call you. You're nothing but thirst girls. They're like, felt cute, might delete later. That's kind of how Tony ran the whole thing that's the way Tony ran most of Dynamite's like, felt cute, not gonna delete later. Dynamite was off the chain. So Collision was going to have a hard time reaching that anyway. But, I mean, overall, hard fought 8 minutes. Baker emerges victoriously. Celebrations cut short. Now, I'm going to step on this segment here a little bit. I'm not stepping on it, but I'm stepping to it. Dynamite showed up on Wednesday, and I'm giving the context for what I'm getting ready to say. Dynamite shows up on Wednesday. We get a very good Mercedes Moné versus Hiroki Shida. I'm just going to go Shida. I'm not even going to try the first name. Moné Shida. Okay. A certain podcaster who shall remain nameless because I'm not giving him any more street cred went off and leaned into it and reposted it for like 2 days on how Camille should have acted in that moment. Even though in the entire history of this person's career, that has never happened on the male side or the female side, according to the way he thought it ought to have happened. And that's important because Camille herself replied to it. The person in question is actually one of Camille's trainers from when she was coming up in the NWA. So she took that personally. And by personally, I don't mean that she got down on her hands and knees and begged for forgiveness or anything like that. But when your mentor makes a comment, especially when it's one of your first, it's a practical debut. For all intents and purposes, it was practically a debut. And this particular person went off and off and off, and it could have left it there, but he just kept leaning into it and reposting it. So tonight, just to make that guy happy, no doubt, because Tony Khan is a people pleaser, we get Mercedes Moné and Camille at the top of the ramp. Camille comes down, literally destroys Britt Baker. Now, Tony Khan can get away with literally destroying Britt Baker right now because most of the time that's a Dynamite angle, and a lot of the Dynamite folks apparently forget that Collision is on Saturday nights. So the numbers for Collision are usually considerably lower than they are for Dynamite. So I have to believe that the people who were just watching Dynamite 3 days ago, forgot that AEW has another show on. It shows up for Rampage too. Rampage only get like a couple 100,000 viewers. So that tells me that the 709,000 on Wednesday totally forgot we got a show on Friday and Saturday. So I think Tony felt like he could get away with doing this because I guess he felt slighted or felt called out because the Dynamite show was just that fucking good. At the end of the day, the Dynamite show was just that fucking good. Britt Baker tried everything, tried to hit her with a kendo stick. She grabbed the kendo stick, broke the kendo stick over her knee. By the way, folks, that's a real kendo stick. By the way, it's real bamboo. And by the way, you just can't break one of them damn things over your leg like that. It don't work like that. That was there simply to show off her ability to be brutal and mean. And then she proceeded to destroy Britt Baker. We finished the segment with not one word out of Mercedes Moné. She puts her spiked heel on the top of Britt Baker's back. Camille puts her boot on the face of Britt Baker and declares Mercedes Moné the winner of a fight that didn't happen. That was totally playing into that whole thing about how a bodyguard should be, how an enforcer should be. That was totally playing out of that. Tony, my guy, you don't owe anybody an explanation, especially people you can buy and sell and not even go to the bank on. You don't owe anybody an explanation for your booking. It is your right to book and present the way you see fit. If you give me enough to work with, it is then my right to praise it. If you don't give me enough to work with, Paul Levesque, it is then my right to criticize what you didn't give me to work with. I'm not supposed to be watching your show like a mark. I'm supposed to be watching your show with an eye for analyzing. I'll get that word out. That's how I'm supposed to be watching it. Fans watch your show one way. And you don't owe them an explanation either, just because their favorite podcaster took their happy day and just shit all over it. You don't owe anybody an explanation. I get it, though. Camille just comes down. Guys, when I say that she absolutely squashed Britt Baker, I mean she squashed her. So the match at All In is probably going to be worth 10% less personal investment for people who analyze it. I don't even think you picked up any kind of personal investment from the average fan, because the average fan already knew what was going on. And you didn't get over with the WWE march. You didn't get over with the haters. It's not going to happen, Tony. They are not going to see the light, Tony. They are not going to wake up tomorrow morning and have an epiphany by watching AEW Collision and go, you know what? I've been fucking missing it the whole time. Let me just dive into this. Let me hit the replay. Let me hit the on demand, because this was that fucking, that's never going to happen. Your best move at this point, and I'm going to go into detail on this, because the rest of this I'm pretty much going to fly through. I'm going to hit the highlights and so on and so forth. But this is a very important moment here, Tony. You got to deal with Dallas, or you got to deal with Texas for All In. You've got a television deal. Lean into that shit. Lean into the whole thing. Stop going along to get along. I don't personally like Britt Baker. I think that she's one of the leaks in the building. That's right, Britt. I said it. Suck on it. I don't really care. Not a fan. I think she's one of the leaks. Her and Will Washington, I believe, are your two leaks. That said, even though I don't like her personally for good reason, professionally, she didn't deserve that. I'm not sure if you killed the momentum of this match with that segment, but if you didn't, I'm going to be shocked. Anyway, Britt Baker gets squashed by Camille, and Camille, oh my God. I knew when you got to AEW, it was going to be on like Donkey Kong playing ping pong. I knew it. You are that good. If nobody else is going to say that 2 weeks in, you have not missed a beat from your NWA ass kicking days. You've not missed a step, and you've been off for a while. You've been off for a hot minute. You have not missed a beat. I am so sorry that y'all had to participate in this to please some fat, sweaty, antagonistic, holier than thou sidekick that happens to have 500,000 followers out of 323 million in this country alone and about 8 billion people in the world. Like a very small percentage of people follow him, and a few of them might become fans. No, they're not going to become fans. Tony, book your shit the way you want to book it. Now I'm breaking from the crowd. A lot of the crowd saying hand the book over. I'm saying book that shit the way you want it, but lean into this shit. Going forward. And if somebody wants to clip this, be my fucking guest. I'll clip it if you don't. Going forward, Tony, and I've heard this said on other podcasts, so I got to give them credit for it. They give me the idea, I let it marinate, then I bring it to my viewers. You know what? I'm still sitting here with 10. We're at this an hour. We're almost at 2 hours. I am going to blow through this. I appreciate you sticking with me. It's getting late. Book your matches and lean into that shit. You are not going to get the casual WWE viewer. It's not going to happen. But what can happen is you can get the WWE rage viewer. The more you keep leaning into this, the more they're going to want to look at it to criticize it. You want to get your viewership up, just keep leaning into what you're doing. Quite frankly, and bringing Harley along like that and putting her with Britt Baker, I thought that was a class act. I really did. I thought it was a class act. The match was a class act. Britt let her show out a little bit, and I say let because that's exactly what she did. Britt let her show out, show off the whole 9 yards. That was a good pairing. It's a good matchup. I mean, the results were the results. I knew Britt Baker was going to win. In the back of my mind, I was kind of half-ass hoping that they might, let Harley sneak in a win to throw a little bit of drama going into All In. I was hoping you were going to go that route, but closer to the end of the match, it became clearer and clearer you were not going to do that. So I just sat back and enjoyed the fact that you highlighted Harley Cameron on a bigger stage than Dynamite. I mean, not Dynamite, but Rampage. Because Rampage probably didn't get that big a stage last night, and that's a fucking shame because that segment was hilarious. I've got it on my site. That's some of the best stuff I have seen in a long time, especially out of a women's division where everybody's either a Karen, a bitch, or a scaredy cat. Those are only 3 things in WWE women. They're either running around like, oh my God, somebody might actually hit me, or they're a Karen talking about, when I was here, this is how it cheats you, or they're just a plain flat bitch. They all act like they don't want to be there except for a couple of them. You know who you are. We've had that conversation. But a lot of them, when you put them in these crazy-ass storylines, they act like they don't even want to be there, and I feel for them. So, you know what? Nobody's calling that shit out, Tony. Book your stuff. Do your thing. Anyway, they won. Britt Baker won. Big ass kicking handed out to Britt Baker, so on and so forth. Then we get to the Kingdom versus Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. Long story short, there was a whole lot of main roster fuckery in this thing. Too much to keep track of. Dustin Rhodes continues to show that every single day, every time Dustin Rhodes gets in the ring, he shows you that there's levels to this. And I swear, if Swerve Strickland decides that he's going to stay in AEW, and that's going to be his home for his whole contract, he couldn't be in a better place than AEW. Dustin Rhodes gets in that ring and reinvents himself every couple of months. And that, my friends, is Hall of Fame talent. He may never get in the WWE Hall of Fame, but he is an absolute Hall of Fame talent every day, and today is no exception. He's bringing Sammy Guevara up. I really wish they would have spent more time discussing that and discussing the call-up from Ring of Honor, because when Sammy Guevara went to Ring of Honor exclusively, the WWE or whoever, because, I mean, I don't know where these people get these press clippings. I do know where they get them. But, I'm just saying, they had been expressing about him having some kind of an incident with an assault on a female, something like that. That story somehow broke when he went to a Ring of Honor. He's back from Ring of Honor, and he's on the AEW main stage, even though they are fighting for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. Because, they can do things like that. It's great that we had Trick Williams and Ethan Page and Roxanne Perez on Smackdown. But on AEW, we have them actually show up and fucking wrestle. They actually show up and wrestle. It is really cross-branding. It really is cross-promoting. And I have heard that when this TV deal is finally finalized and they've got solid numbers, they're not going to announce them, because TNT's still arguing over the NBA that they lost. So those numbers are not going to be public. There's not even, I would be surprised if it's any more than a small newspaper blip, some little page 6 article where Tony Khan casually mentions, oh, we did the deal last month. We got a contract. It's going to be 3, 5, or 7 years. I'm expecting him to just flat ass say that as a side item on an interview. But we're not going to get numbers because they're still suing. And that's why. But we're not going to. So give it up. It's not going to happen. Not until after we figure out what TNT is doing with the NBA after their little thing. Oh, but that's over. No, it's not. They got a whole fucking year to fight that, dudes. So it's going to be a while. Let me explain that to you. That's why there aren't a whole bunch of drunken, stupid AEW fans running around going, oh, they got it and it's $2 billion. That's why that's not happening. And it's not going to happen. Not until the controversy over the NBA deal is done. Plain and simple. Don't believe me? Don't give a shit, okay? Think I'm full of shit? Don't give a shit. It's called Business 401. And it's also business law. It's a suggestion that when you're in the middle of a lawsuit, it is not a good idea to start flailing out your contract totals. It'll come out in court. There will be a discovery part of this trial if it does go to trial, wherein we will all be informed of what the deal is, how much it is, because it's part of the earnest. It's part of the due diligence. In other words, before you can bring this suit, we got to know that you got the money. And we got to know where that money came from. And we got to know what your other investments are. That's how a lawsuit of this caliber works. And I have a feeling the information that we're looking for is going to get leaked out of that deposition somehow. That's when you're going to get the answer. Not before. Not 1 second before. Okay? But anyway, let's see here. Opening segment was a microcosm of AEW's dynamic storytelling in ring action. And we had the Kingdom Dustin Rhodes. We had the Kingdom versus Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara for the ROH tag team titles. Man, Dustin Rhodes got in there, showed up, kicked ass. Sammy Guevara had his back the whole time. It was a gorgeous match to watch. Dustin, 55 years young, doing a Canadian destroyer with somebody who is literally a foot shorter than you and fucking nailing it. Where's my boat for that? Hang on a second here. Sorry, it took the soundboard a second to catch up with us. That was an absolutely beautiful match. It was clinical. It was technical. It was everything it needed to be. It had main roster fuckery in it, which, by the way, they went back up the ramp, never to be seen again. I do believe that was a distraction a little bit. It just didn't work out very well. In the end, Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, hands raised high, your Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. Dustin Rhodes, also your Ring of Honor Trios Champion. So in 3 weeks, we've got 2 belts. This could be a loyalty run. This could be a clinic that Dustin Rhodes is putting on for these younger guys. It could be a lot of things, but what it was is fucking beautiful. So now we've got Dustin Rhodes mentoring the Von Erichs and Sammy Guevara. And by the way, if I hear another comment about those alleged blah, blah, blahs, I'm done with that. He's back on AEW Collision. That means there was nothing to it. He went down to Ring of Honor as a punishment. So the minute you saw him on Collision, that means his case had been reviewed, set, and cleared. He's in the clear. That means a whole lot of people put him in the clear. And let me tell you something right now, Dr. Britt Baker is part of that. So that means at least one woman cleared him. And that's all you need to know. Sammy Guevara's okay. Way to pull those titles out, man. And Dustin, you really deserve it. You really, really deserve it. When I say you deserve it, I mean you have really, really earned it. You're doing well with the training, everything else, so on and so forth. After that one, though, I'm going to spend a minute on this one. I know it's getting up to 2 hours, guys. I can see the clock. I know it's getting late. I appreciate you sticking with me. We're almost home, I promise. Hologram and Angelico. Okay. Where's the story? Holograms had 5 matches. That's where the story's at, okay? This was a display of Lucha Libre versus Strong Style Mat Technician. And we got to see in this match, I've got a clip from it. I would have loved to have shown it. But once again, we're sitting there at a moment in time where I was like, you know what, if I show this, I'm going to get killed. That's fact. You know what? I'm just going to get killed. So, I mean, give me just 1 second here. I'll try to see if I can get it loaded. Give me like 1 second here. Because, I mean, I love this clip so much that I want y'all to see it. I really do. And I don't even care if I get canceled for it. And I don't care if this one gets struck. I don't care. If I can pull it down, bear with me just 1 second. Nope, hasn't loaded yet. It will load. Next week, I promise, I'm going to ask permission. I'm going to get written consent to show it. But one of those moves that Hologram and Angelico did together, where he started up just slightly below his shoulders and then hopped when Angelico popped up, that is not even the coolest move he's done. And literally, that suicide dive that Hologram did, he literally looked like he was floating there for a full 3 seconds. So shout out to him and Angelico for pulling that match together the way they pulled it together. It was absolutely a chef's kiss. Loved it. Hologram picks up the win now. He's 6-0. He was 5-0 coming in. Picks up that win. He's 6-0. Then we had Jack Perry, who took on a local jobber who used DallasSingles.com. From DallasSingles.com. It was almost so cringe. I looked at it and said, tell me you bang on the ceiling to tell your mom you're ready for dinner, please. But he tried to stay in it. The whole point of it was to make Jack Perry get over. The match was a total squash. So 2 out of the 6 matches tonight were actually, probably 3 out of the 6 matches were total squashes. They needed to be to advance the storyline. I get it. Jack, you will very rarely hear me praise anything Jack Perry does, because I'm just not a fan. And it's not because he's an actor's son. It's because he's an actor's son who sucks at a lot of things. But he's gotten better over the year. And I don't even care about the CM Punk incident. I'm a joke artist. I don't even give a shit about that. But the fact of the matter is, Jack Perry has improved. This was an actual storyline driven, spot on. If you were going to do a squash, tonight was the night. And that's a fact. If you were going to squash, tonight was the night. Tonight was the night. It was Orion was his last name. Danny Orion. I was trying to remember it. I knew I was going to remember it. Nobody even wrote it down. They barely mentioned it one time. Danny Orion from DallasSingles.com. So, ladies, if you like what you saw, run out to DallasSingles.com. Anyway, that match was what it needed to be. The body bag was the chef's kiss. And taking the TNT title and burying it with the jobber and whipping out that black TNT to kind of match the scapegoat, that was pretty shit hot right there. I'm going to tell you right now, and you don't hardly ever hear me praise Jack Perry, but that segment was fucking off the chain. Good job, Jack. You pulled it out. You really, really, really brought it. I'm not sure why Tony would have said, you got 2 minutes, go out there and work your ass off. That match needed a couple of more minutes for us to get the full frustration, but I get it. We don't want to take any chances. All In is literally around the corner. You guys are going to be hopping on a plane Wednesday or Monday, probably tomorrow. You guys are going to be hopping on a plane, heading over to Cardiff. I understand it. We want to get the business done. We want to get our business took care of. Then we want to hop the plane, hop the pond, get our work done over there, and get straight to All In healthy. I get it. And it was a good segment. I think everything got pushed through exactly the way it needed to be pushed. The body bag was good. The dumping the belt with the body bag. The title with the body bag was perfectly acceptable. The new title, hella good looking. You accomplished your segment, sir, and you accomplished it in less time than what you were probably allocated. Because I got to believe that Tony doesn't send a title out there without at least 4 minutes total of actual action. So you accomplished what needed to be accomplished. Jack Perry, shout out to you. If nobody shouts you out for the rest of the night, and from the looks of the dirt sheets, nobody's shouting your ass out. Just know that I'm shouting your ass out and you were worth it. That was a hell of a segment. Good job. Seriously. See, when I go to criticize Jack Perry, none of y'all are going to remember this moment. But the fact of the matter is, Jack Perry, it was a fucking awesome segment. Then we had Claudio versus Lio Rush. That match was put together last minute, literally, to get Claudio on there. This wasn't even a David versus Goliath. This was Claudio versus a guy half his size and half his weight. It came out really good. I'm happy that they let Lio show up and show out. Lio Rush is the future of the junior heavyweight division. Tony, you need it. A lot of the casual fans that we keep hearing about will not respond to Lucha Libre the way they would respond to Lio Rush. And likewise, Lio Rush, I'm a fan. You know I'm a fan. I probably, you've shared my stuff. I've shared your stuff. You know I'm a fan. Leo, it's on you to keep yourself in check. And if you're really honest with yourself when you do look at this replay, because he actually does watch it occasionally, I noticed that. If you're honest with yourself, you know this is a 50-50 thing. Tony gives you the spotlight. Now you have got to be honest. You've got to play this thing honest, boss. I think you have a chance to champion what 305 Live should have been. You can build that right here on AEW. And you got Swerve in there too, so you got a couple of people who've been in it and understand the system. You could actually get this and make this work. Ball's in your court, kid. In all seriousness, if you miss it this time, the only person's fault it's going to be is yours. Claudio made him look like $1 billion all the way across the way. Leo made Claudio look like $1 billion. It's always beautiful to watch two wrestlers, especially with the mismatch, the obvious mismatch that we're working on here. It is beautiful to watch these people work together. It was gorgeous. Claudio picks up the win. I knew he was going to pick up the win, and so on and so forth. Claudio Castagnoli, he won, and we're almost there, guys. We only got one more match, and you know what? Notes are gone. FTR versus The Acclaimed. I don't even need the notes for this. Literally, it was going off while I was putting the notes together for the other two shows. I was watching it. As it got close to the 5-minute mark before the end of the match, I thought, man, we're going to get a Dairy Queen. Then it got to 4 minutes, and I'm like, son of a bitch, Tony's going to book a 3-way dance. Because, by the way, one thing I did leave out, we got the information that the House of Black, come on, Matt. It's getting late, guys, so that makes it even doubly harder. House of Black, Bang Bang Gang, the Patriarchy, and one as yet to be named team. Let me go ahead and name that one for you. It's going to be the Orange Cassidy thing. Okay? That group's going to be there. That's going to be the fourth group. Hadn't happened yet. That's what's going to happen. He announces a 4-way dance for the Trios title, the AEW Trios title. By the way, what happened to the other one? This was a unified title. What happened to them? You know, I know we know what happened to the ROH titles. We don't know what happened yet. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. I'm brain dead. Guys, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting there. But we're here. We're home now. We're home. We're almost there. I said to myself, if the Acclaimed win this match, I seriously considered not ordering All In. I really did. I seriously considered hanging out for the clips and just catching it at another time. But then part of me was like, if FTR wins this thing, where's the story? Because that's really all WWE fans care about. It's got to have a story. This has a story. But if FTR does win, what is this, like the bazillionth time they would have just met? And likely they would have gone over the Young Bucks because the Young Bucks are looking for some extra vacation time. They're taking less dates, and they know because they are professionals. Now, you may hear me make fun of them every once in a while. You will never, ever hear me make fun of their intent. I believe their intent is real. I believe they want to make AEW the best wrestling place can possibly be for the tag teams. That's why they inject themselves quite regularly into tag team feuds. That's why they pick up the titles every once in a while. They're Vern Gagneing it. And if you don't understand what that means, watch AWA. Vern Gagne was his own champion more times than not because he couldn't trust the belt with the talents. The talents were good, but sometimes they could get over. Sometimes they could screw up a good push. So Vern Gagne himself held that title more than everybody else combined. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not necessary. It's not necessary anymore. Young Bucks, you have done your thing. Let those titles go, man. And go be the EVPs you were meant to be. Please and thank you. That does not mean that I have any less respect for their talent and their ability to put it on in the ring, because they got a switch they can flip. And when they flip that switch, they are fucking beautiful to watch. I don't care what anybody says. Double or Nothing, I thought was a beautiful fucking match. Okay? I really did. So they can go. But the fact of the matter is, this thing got down closer and closer and closer. Guys, the exchange in all of this was absolutely beautiful. Great story told in the line. At the end of the match, it was the way that Billy Gunn got involved, the way they slapped him, so on and so forth. That was just gorgeous. So, with that said, that match right there was a cheat code. And I'm going to get called out on that, and I really don't care. Do I want to see the Acclaimed, or as I call them, the Alamed, at All In? No. I did want to see FTR. If we were going to see anybody, I wanted to see them. But after this match, they did not phone this one in. The Acclaimed did not phone this one in. They didn't come out there rapping. They didn't come out there doing the stupid shit. Don't get me wrong. Max Caster cut his promo before the match. Gotcha. We got that all out of the way. Some people said it was good. Some people said it sucked. Some people said it wasn't his best work. Some people said it was. Nobody cares. They got the promo shit out of the way in the back where the promo went. Then they marched their happy little asses down to the ring and went to war. And that was a fucking war. A good war on top of it. Long story short, we get no winner whatsoever, and at the end of the match, we get the announcement that Tony Khan's made that FTR, the Acclaimed, will face the Young Bucks in a three-way dance. So I'm guessing what we're going to get. At the end of the day, you got to ask yourself a question, where's all this going? Because every credible news source out there is reporting that All In's only going to go 10 to 12 matches. I thoroughly disagree with that. Because I have a hard time believing that Tony Khan's going to give us 12 matches for All In, give us 15 matches for Forbidden Door, and 15 matches for Double or Nothing. But in the biggest event of the year, we're only going to get 10 to 12 matches. I really don't believe that, except for the fact that now we've got two matches that can potentially go an hour to an hour and a half between the two of them. And the fact that Tony Storm and Mariah May's match better go at least 30 minutes. And there better be a definitive end to it, and there better be an indication that this is indeed a blood feud. Maybe they're only going to go 10 to 12 matches. But as far as the card is stacked right now, I don't believe that destroying Britt Baker tonight, I still don't believe that was the right way to do it. I don't believe that to be the right way to do it. I still believe that you had Dynamite and Collision in Cardiff, Wales, which I hate to break the bad news to you, but Cardiff, Wales is Mercedes Moné Towns. So if you were going to stomp a mud hole in Britt Baker and walk it dry, that would have been the spot to do it. That's why they call them the go-home shows. We haven't gotten to those yet. The go-home Dynamite is next week. The go-home Collision is next week. Could have been done there. Just saying, think you shot your wad just a little too early on this one. And because I'm not a fan of Britt Baker, I'm not the least fucking bit upset. Because we all have a consensus that she's going to phone that match in anyway. There's no just reason to take that title off of Mercedes Moné. She's been the workhorse. I don't care if she can't carry the mic 5 inches. Her ring work means she doesn't have to do that. So if we get 30 seconds of good promo out of her, as you guys say, frankly, I think that number's a lot longer. It's our product. You're welcome to come watch it. That's the exact way I'm addressed when I say anything negative about WWE. Oh, that's our product. But if you want to come watch it, you can watch it, but you can't make fun of it. I hear that shit more than I care to talk about. So I'm telling you guys this. This is our product. You are more than welcome to come in and watch it. And if you're going to make a criticism of it, those criticisms of that show require an extensively larger amount of thought than it does to make fun of Tiffy time in a fucking ring with pink and white balloons. For somebody who literally just wrecked the entire roster, now we're going to hop on a fucking roller coaster and go through It's a Small World. If you've never been to Disney World, if you've been to Disney World, you know what I'm talking about. That segment was Mag Wheels on a dump truck, okay? It really was. If it hadn't been for Mia Yim breaking that thing up at the end, they would have gone on and on and on, and Pretty Zesty would have kept up. Pretty Zesty probably still be singing right now. Respectfully. I'm going to give Collision. That's a hard one. Moment of the night in Collision, people think I'm going to say Harley Cameron. I'm not. Moment of the night was how Lio Rush handled himself. It's a co-moment of the night because I couldn't decide between the two. The way Lio Rush worked that match with Claudio Castronoli was absolutely masterful. I wonder if he called and had a conversation with Rey Mysterio on how to work big men matches, big to them, not necessarily, because Rey Mysterio used to do some of the most beautiful David and Goliath matches. He could make Goliath look like Goliath. And I feel like Lio Rush made Goliath look like Goliath. And I'm going to share that moment with Hologram and Angelico, because they put on a clinic on how to work two styles in the ring at the same time and adapt to each other's style. You know, Hologram picked up the win with an actual mat wrestling move. And, of course, Tony Schiavone had to break that out for the average fan now. I know Tony Schiavone's sitting there going, why do I have to point this shit out? But somehow now Tony Schiavone now needs to point these things out during the match. So, overall, those being my moments of the night, I'm giving Collision at least a 5.5. Because there was a lot of saves in that match. There was a lot of saves for the night. The cameraman did you no favors. And that's a couple of shows in the last month. So y'all might want to have a conversation with your camera crew and your production crew. It's either the sound or the camera view or the audio. There's always something going on. Now, this time it wasn't that. It was that bad. Fuck it. I'm going to be honest with you. People say I don't criticize AEW. Call that a criticism. Production value tonight was not up to par. And I think that's going to reflect in the ratings. I think the ratings are going to be lower, not because of the fact that AEW Collision by itself had more wrestling in it than Raw and SmackDown and NXT combined. You had 6 hours, 7 hours of programming this week, and AEW Collision had a better storyline, better matches, and more wrestling than all three of those shows put together, just about. Not fully, but just about. 5.5, and that's that. Clear the air. I did use that, guys. Please don't shoot me for it, because I know somebody's going to watch it. I told my son today, and I stand on this. Guys, nobody's trying to tell you that you have to fight to be a man. But sometimes you have to fight when you are a man. And the wise person knows how to distinguish between those two moments. So instead of all this unadulterated chaos that we have to deal with on a regular basis, try a little kindness, try a little negotiation. It'll probably go a lot longer than the time you're going to spend in jail because, you messed around with Mary Jane Rottencrotch and Joe Fiddlebum on the other side had a problem with it. That's life. It's going to happen. Joe Fiddlebum doesn't know your story and you don't know his. So you don't have to fight to be a man, but you do have to fight when you are a man. And when you give your word and follow through, even at your own detriment, because it pays off in the end. That's my clear the air for tonight. I had to say that, guys, because it was such a good thing. My son was like, you ought to mention it. And I said, yeah, I ought to. You're right. He didn't say that. No, I just felt really proud of myself for that conversation. And I wanted to share that conversation because something tells me somebody out there needs to hear that. But guys, I've been on this thing now for 2.5 hours. This is absolutely the longest stream I've ever done. And I swear, it doesn't feel like I've been here 2.5 hours. But I'm pretty sure on your side it does feel like that. So guys, I appreciate you being here with me. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And most of all, thank you for being with us here on the Sicko Show. I will see you live again next Saturday. And I'm going to have a whole lot to talk about next Saturday. I'm working on my stories right now. Thanks for sticking with me. Good night. God bless. And good night, America, wherever you are. Take care.
I'll be the last one left when the lights go out. I'm down to one last breath, but I can't stop now. We all fall down sometimes, yeah, but that's just life. So cross my heart and hope to die. Baby, I was born to fight the fear when I feel like dying. I'm trying to fly high, but I'm not a pilot, can't deny it. There's some days I feel idiotic, just a product of a system where you're lucky just to make a dollar. That ain't gonna stop me cause my grind's contagious. I'll do what it takes to turn passion to paychecks. And if I go down, I'ma do it on my terms. And every single problem brings a lesson that I learned. The darkest nights, when things seem so broken, it's hard to shine, but I still try. I'll be the last one left when the lights go out. I'm down to one last breath, but I can't stop now. We all fall down sometimes, yeah, but that's just life. So lost my heart and hope to die. Baby, I was born to fight.